Welcome everyone into Inside LAFC podcast. I am Max Bretos, Stephen Beitashour joining me as well. Hope everyone had a really good Labor Day weekend. We're getting into the week now, getting ready for another LAFC game day. How are things for you, Beita? Were you able to do a little R&R?
Yeah, it was good. It was a good little weekend. Relax, recover, watch some footy, play some golf. Can't complain.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Lovely.
it was good.
Did all that. I actually got my son to play some golf. I would also add I went to see Toto and Christopher Cross at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was interesting. But I left early.
I did see you played some golf. How was that? The little par 3 course, right, at the hotel?
Yeah, well, first off, all due respect to pickleball, but they're putting up pickleball courts everywhere. There was a little parking lot where you could drop off your clubs. It has been moved out, and they put pickleball courts in there. So I had to walk an extra block and a half.
Terrible.
That's right, man. That's why I'm doing 9 holes. There's a reason I'm doing 9 holes. I don't want to walk an extra with that in my big old bag. Anyway, it was very fun, but I'm glad everyone gets to spend some time. Hopefully you all got to spend some time with family and friends. We also mentioned, Beita, there are going to be shows like this where we're going to be talking about a not so great match day from LAFC. Certainly they had it against the Houston Dynamo. I do also, before we get into that, want to let everyone know that we will be joined by Kei Kamara, the birthday boy, and we'll talk about an incredible place that he has hit that very few get to in their professional careers. 40 years old. Amazing.
Very, very amazing. It's not an accomplishment like you're getting an award, but I feel like it should be. If you're playing till you're 40, that's incredible. I don't know how he's doing it.
I don't know how he's doing it, but it seems like he can keep going. So we'll see. And we'll talk about where he stands amongst the oldest players in the league. I'm a strong believer that we're going to see more players play into their 40s for the variety of reasons. They're taking better care of themselves. There's better resources out there. So maybe we'll see more of that, which is a good thing. It's a good thing.
It is.
What wasn't a good thing was the 2-0 result to the Dynamo. This was a game where it wasn't like a fluke. I mean, Houston really took it to them. They have a certain way about them. There is a Columbus Crew element to this team that they like to possess the ball. They certainly did that. I know the Crew possessed the ball the most in MLS. And that's something that the black and gold have struggled with. The Dynamo are second. We also know that this came on the back end of a very difficult, demanding week, which we will talk about there. But I tend to give the team certainly deserves a pass. I don't think there's any reason for panic, but obviously you want to make sure that this doesn't snowball. But it was, there's a variety of things that we could certainly look at the reasoning behind this game. But give testament, it was an important game for the Dynamo. They needed points, and they took them.
Yeah, that Dynamo team, I'm impressed with them. I like the way they play. I really like that midfield trio of theirs. I know in this game they had the 2 holding mids, but they like to play off each other, similar to how LAFC likes to control the midfield. But I don't know if it was fatigue or what, but LAFC's played a lot of games in the recent weeks, months, and maybe they're just a little tired. It's very rare that someone comes to BMO to BMO and beats LAFC, and not only beats them, but shuts them out. It's very rare that you see that. And so, kudos to Houston. They played a really good game. I think it was not till the second half that LAFC had a shot on target. So just that stat line alone is pretty crazy to think. But yeah, I like that Houston team. It's not something that, you should be terribly down on yourself about if you're LAFC, but just quick rebound and get back into swing of things.
Good-looking new DP. They have an Ezequiel Ponce who had that first goal that came off a corner kick. It was a freakish goal. But to your point, I think what is not worrisome, but the one thing that sticks out of this is the lack of chances LAFC created. That's something they've done all season, and I'm sure they'll get back to it. I will add, everyone talks about how LAFC struggled with Columbus Crew, but this Dynamo team, I think it's a team that you wouldn't mind avoiding in the MLS Cup playoffs. I think they're 7th right now. We'll see where they fall. They should make it. To your point also, they're very talented. LAFC beat them in the Western Conference Final, but they lost to them here, and they lost to them twice last year, and we'll talk about the matchup next week where they'll play down in Houston. That's going to be tricky, certainly in September. But hey, when those playoff brackets come out, I'm sure you'll look around and say, oh, maybe it's better if we get them or them and not the Dynamo because of the way they play. LAFC can beat the Dynamo. They beat them in the most important game they played. But it's a more uncomfortable matchup than, say, the Sounders, obviously, or the Timbers, or whoever else within that Western Conference.
Besides Columbus, as of late, I don't think there's a team that you can look at the last, let's just say, 5 games that has had LAFC's number, except for Houston. I want to say the last 5 games, Houston's done all right against LAFC. It's very surprising, because they're probably 6th, 7th place in the standings right now. So not super high up, definitely in that playoff spot. But they always give trouble to LAFC, home or away, for whatever reason. Maybe they just enjoy playing LAFC, like we were talking about a couple weeks ago about LAFC beating Seattle again. Like, no way they can beat them again, right? It's almost like Houston saying the same thing, like, no way we can beat them again. And they're coming out and they're doing their thing. So got to give them credit to Ben Olsen, that staff, and just those players to come out and put up a fight every week.
They got a good midfield with Herrera and Bassi. They ping the ball around. Coco Carrasquilla came in, and he helps that. That is something that LAFC should be working on, because maybe Houston and Columbus are in their future. I think I would hope so. Maybe that's a nice double. That was the double they hit last year on their way to MLS Cup. Who knows if there's a similar path this time around. Steve Cherundolo, in his post-game comments, said, we have our work cut out for us, but we'll get back to our winning ways. He mentioned fatigue, and you touched that at the beginning, and there's no dodging it. That is something that certainly LAFC had to deal with, not just physical fatigue. He mentioned emotional fatigue, mental fatigue, a demanding road trip where they were on the road for 6 days, I think, straight before finally coming back. They were going to look forward to a break this week, but because they had their game rescheduled to Houston, this is an international break. There's very few games on the MLS calendar, but unfortunately for LAFC, at the beginning of the year, they said, okay, we can recharge the batteries this weekend. They can't. They got to go to Houston a second time. As a player, and you've had these stretches, dealing with those types of fatigue, how did you do it? And what does that feel like when you're playing and maybe the reactions and those, your mind is not clicking how it used to, you feel tired out there. How do you deal with those things?
Yeah, when I was a player, there were moments like this that you just needed a reset. Just recharge, don't think about soccer, relax, hang out with family, do whatever. Go on a mini vacation, go somewhere. It's tough. LAFC hasn't had that opportunity. And it's a good thing, right? Because they're in all these tournaments. They're doing well. They're playing long into the tournaments. But the flip side of that is, well, now you don't have a moment to just kick your feet up, relax, put something else on the TV rather than game film of your past game and then your future game. And it's just the constant cycle. And it's almost 10 months long, the season, when you look at it. It's a long time to physically and mentally every single day, every single week be switched on. So, Steve Cherundolo mentioned it, and I think it is a little bit of a factor here. They're a little mentally and physically fatigued. And now the tough part is we're getting to the final end of the season, right before playoffs. So you can't really find a break for these guys. Some of the guys are going to international break coming up. That means other players are going to have to rotate in, and it's going to be a tough mix of balancing both, players, their physical standpoint and their mental just relaxation. Like, okay, let's just get ready for the end of the season. But they have Open Cup too, man. It's crazy right now. It's crazy.
Wow, those soccer players are just like the rest of us. You need to check out a little bit. You just got to get away from it all and watch something different and put yourself in a different mind space or whatever it is. And I think some of them probably, but it's like a day. Like I'm sure yesterday, Sunday, and then on Labor Day, for instance, I'm sure they were able to go out, spend time with the family, go to the beach or what have you. But maybe it requires a little bit more. And I'm sure Steve Cherundolo would have been thrilled to have this team have this week off. There's an October international window that's been filled as well for a Whitecaps game. That was because of all the fixtures they had. This is just bad luck because of that. does it feel good? I mean, is it a good feeling to look at the calendar and say, all right, you are off? And that'll give you that. I mean, even if it's days away, to know, okay, we don't have a game this weekend, I can kind of plan my week accordingly where I can ramp up for a very big Galaxy game the following weekend.
Yeah. Look, Kobe had this one saying, work now so you can rest at the end. This is the season right now. You're working now so that you can rest once it's after MLS Cup and it's holidays. But I just know not everybody is wired like Kobe that can just every day grind. And, we're human beings at the end of the day. And these guys just need, I'd say when I played, if you gave me two days off, that was plenty for me. Some guys, just give them the weekend. Give them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Go away, do a quick little trip, go wherever, hang out. Don't take any calls from us. Don't watch any game film. Don't do anything. And then just come back, batteries are recharged. So we'll see if they can find that moment.
And these guys aren't going to be excited to go back to Houston. They have a horrible I spoke to them at training last week, and they had a horrible recollection of being stuck in the hotel with a hurricane coming in. So they're going to kind of associate that whole trip. I mean, they're professionals. They get over it. It was funny, too, because when they came back from that road trip, I talked to some of the players, and they were like laughing because they go, Olivier Giroud was having a great time exploring LA, and then whammo, Columbus, Seattle, airports,
yeah,
hotels. He's like, whoa. And now he's going to Houston. But this is where you learn about this league. And Olivier Giroud in particular, he got some minutes too. I think we're going to see he had a little knock against Columbus, so it's good to see him back. But this is where it hits you in the face in so many ways. That this is the challenges of playing in MLS if you're coming from abroad.
Yeah, and the overseas players, when they travel, it's quick travel. A lot of times just bus. This isn't quick travel over here. You're taking some flights. There are no buses. There are long flights being taken. So, he'll get used to it. I'm sure he's loving it regardless.
Well, it gets a little more complicated here, Beita, because in addition to fatigue, we have an international date. So this was what it's going to be. And LAFC could take off and not worry about missing players. It's great news. 6 players got called into international duty. Kike Oliveira going to join Uruguay. Matty Bogusz, which was to me the biggest news because we were hoping he can get on that Polish national team. They have Nations League play. He's on that squad. I think he'll continue to build a portfolio to play for Poland. Denny Bouanga is going to be with Gabon. Omar Campos for Mexico. I believe the under-23 is Maxime Chanot with Luxembourg. And David Martinez got called into the Venezuelan senior team. So it's a 41. It's like a training crew. So some of these guys may come back. He probably won't play for Venezuela, who had a very good Copa. So those are 6 guys. So great. Let's start with that. The great news. What does it mean when you get the news when your teammates are getting called into international duty? It's obviously big news for the club, but dealing with that news first.
I think it's huge news. And the 2 that really stand out there are Bogusz with Poland. I think that's phenomenal. And hopefully it's many more to come. And then Martinez with Venezuela. I think those are 2 big call-ups. Not surprised. They both deserve it. Good players, but very good opportunities for them to take advantage of, right? The international stage for players, it's about pride when you play for your country. It's not about, a lot of times they say club teams, that's who you work for, this or that. When you play for your country at the international stage, it's all about pride. And so I think those guys are very excited. Their teammates are excited for them. I remember anytime we had any players on our teams get called in, we were pumped for them because everyone's tuning in, right? It's not a city that you're representing. You're representing an entire country. So it's very cool for everybody involved. And LAFC is proud, right? To say that we have 6 guys getting called in, that means you're doing something right. The team is performing well. The organization is performing well. And so you wish them well. You wish them injury-free, come back healthy, and then get the ball rolling again when they're back.
It is good news. And not everyone's losing 6 players, which is going to put LAFC in a bit of a predicament as they get ready for this game against Houston. There are 9 games remaining. LAFC need points. They need to get the most out of this. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But without these 6 players, there's going to be some there has to be. And what was a good situation, and many teams will have to deal with it because every national team is in play here. And it's a proper international date. You got to replace these guys. So a big 20-man roster, 21-man roster, You are going to more different guys are going to have to step up. And this is where you want a big roster, but this is a lot of people that you have to replace.
It is. It is a lot of people. But when you look at LAFC's depth, there's a lot of quality there. I know Steve Trundle has been mixing them in here and there in preparation for this, which is really smart. But now it's time for these guys to play 90 minutes, not just a few minutes at the tail end of games, or not just the first, 60 minutes. Like, hey, get ready, you're about to go 90 minutes, because we don't have many options after that. So it's a good opportunity. I think guys who are in this position are all looking forward to it as well, and trying to take advantage of it, right? Because you're not just playing for this moment, you're playing for the next contract, whether it's to stay with LAFC or maybe someone else is watching, maybe another team in another country is watching. So it's always an opportunity to rehearse for another contract, another game, and their future.
Yeah, and this all goes into the pot for young players that LAFC want to sell. Kike Oliveira, Manny Bogusz at the top of that list. David Martinez a little bit later. But these are guys, I hope their price tag comes up. And again, what we have said in the past, LAFC's profile gets that much better if and when the rest of the world looks at them as a club that can develop players and sell them on. It's a game changer. So I know some fans will go, why would you sell their talented players? It's part of being a top club, and LAFC have some good pieces. Their time may be short. We'll see, but it's a good thing at the end of the day, and they'll look to replace that and keep the machine running. But right now, they've got to replace these guys for Houston, a difficult matchup, and all the great folks out there, the LAFC supporters, the great podcasts by fans on social media, putting together a projected 11, and it's difficult because you're missing the wingers. So it could be Bogusz. This past weekend, it was Bogusz, Bouanga, Oliveira, and then you could bring in Martinez as another wide player, but he's gone. Really, the only winger now is Nathan Ordaz, who is going to feature. He hasn't played really at all the last couple months. He is going to get in there. The other thing when you look at the attack is, do you play with more than one forward? You have Kei Kamara and you have Olivier Giroud. So is that a possibility? I don't. This is a tricky one. It may be with Maxime Chanot. You're not going to play with the three center backs. You may go to a back four and maybe a 4-4-2 of some kind, because you do have Ilie and Atuesta and Lewis O'Brien, who has played a lot. You're down a fullback with Campos, so you have Hollingshead and you have Sergi Palencia. So you have a good team. It's just you have enough players, but may not fit all together, certainly in those top positions. Would you like to see a couple forwards? Would that work? I mean, you have a guy who's 37 and a guy who's 40, and I think Nathan Ordaz, this is your moment for sure. If you don't start, I'm sure you're going to get some minutes here at some point.
Yeah, if I were Steve Trundle, I would probably go into a 3-5-2. I know recently they liked the 4-3-3. Recently they've been doing the 3-4-3, but in the situation where you're missing your wingers, I think a 3-5-2 is perfect. You put the two forwards with Giroud and Kai up top, and now you can still keep your Palencia and your Hollingshead as the wingers out wide, and you still have your midfield trio, which is perfect. And then you got your three center backs, which they have. I think it's a system that allows them to play somewhat similar to the way they do, because Hollingshead and Palencia will give you that width, but you're not going to be the same as Denny Bouanga on the wing or Oliveira on the wing taking guys on, right? Those guys aren't going to be taking guys on, but they're going to give you that width, which allows you to spread the opponent out, and then you can still play in behind, right? You can still get crosses in with two forwards that are very good in the air, by the way. So if that were me, that's what I would do, but we'll see. They have plenty of options, and they know what they're doing, so they don't need to listen to me. From
one Steve to another.
Yes.
Look at that. Beita, he's got that coaching mind. He's piecing the squad together. And when you look at it, it's obviously, it's not dire because you have guys everywhere that have played, and that's something that they've built up to. We get ready for this September stretch. 9 games, if we point it out, after the Houston game. And look, if they can get a point in Houston, that's great. I think when you look the way the Dynamo played, and it's going to be hard for LAFC to win down there. That's just a realistic situation with the 6. I think the Dynamo are going to probably miss 2 international players. Obviously, Carrasquilla, who just came back. I have to look at the list, but it's not going to be 6 and not 6 key players the way LAFC has. So you have the Galaxy game on the 14th, and you don't. The good news is that's in LA, but you're playing against a Galaxy team that hasn't lost in that building all season. Then you have LAFC Austin in the midweek, and that is one of 3 home games that are remaining. So the Galaxy lost on Sunday to St. Louis, which is good news. So you can still catch them. You're 5 points behind. You have the 3 games in hand. Real Salt Lake is pulled level on points. You have a couple games. You have the games in hand. But you got to win. You got to get points out of these games, or then that doesn't carry it. Yeah. We look at this realistically, where you think LAFC could fall, or what's a good spot for them? Can they finish first in the West? Can they get into a position where, at the very least, they don't fall out of those top 2 spots? I mean, it's tough. I mean, they have a lot of games, but of the 9 games that remain, just 3 of them are at home. You do have the home U.S. Open Cup on the 25th of September. It's a busy month.
Being a busy month, and we just alluded to fatigue, right? So many games that they've played. I would almost be inclined to just rest some of those players for some of those games. Put in the younger guys, put in your 2s, give guys who haven't gotten a lot of minutes an opportunity. And not that you're conceding that game, but you're not putting your best foot forward, so to speak, and you're not putting your starters, because it's tough. It's tough when you have this many games, and to go in and just overextend every player and be like, hey, we have to win every game. You're in a good spot. You're in second place. You mentioned it. You have games in hand. You just need to make the playoffs, which they're going to do. And you want to finish top 3, so you have that home field advantage for most of the playoffs, right? If Galaxy are ahead of them, it's still in LA. The travel is going to be amazing regardless.
It would be amazing if it's a Western final of those 2. Let's be honest.
So other than that, you shouldn't really be too worried. It's not like you're going on the road every single week. And, they've done pretty well the last 3 months being on the road regardless. So
yeah, they've been a good road team.
I would definitely have that mindset. Look, we're getting down to crunch time. We're going to make the playoffs. We're fine. Stay healthy, get that, home playoff game for most of the playoffs. And then just be in good form once you enter the playoffs. Don't overexert yourself right now trying to get that 1 spot, and then you get injured, or you don't have everyone available and all this stuff. So, but that's what I've seen teams do in the past, and it's worked out. And I've seen the other route, and it typically doesn't work as well, the other route.
And look, they got a CONCACAF Champions Cup spot. Steve Cherundolo mentioned that too in the postgame, that they were pursuing, or he mentioned that the week leading up to the Houston game. They were pursuing a top 2 spot in the West. They didn't get it. They finished 3rd. They went up to Seattle and won, and then they got to host the Western Final. They made MLS Cup, so they've been there. Inter Miami won over the weekend, so Supporter Shield I don't think is going to happen. I'm pretty confident. The Supporter Shield's not coming back to LAFC because the folks in Miami are having an incredible season. But you have, they played on August 31st, which kind of feels like a September game. I'm not including that. But other than that, you have 6 September games at Houston on the 7th. It was supposed to be an off day. The 14th, Galaxy. 18th, Austin. 21st, Dallas. And then 25th, the Open Cup final. And the 28th at Cincinnati.
Those are tough games. I've had coaches in the past that they would look at the calendar to say you have 4, because you have 4 weekends. Say you have 4 games, and they'd be like, you know what, we're going to try to take these 3, and then that one we'll just, we'll take the L there. That's a lot of tough games. So for fans to look at that and hear that and be like, oh, we need to win, 90-something% of those, you got to be realistic here, right? You got to be realistic. They're missing a lot of players. They are fatigued from their busy stretch that they've already done. If they can take half of those, I'd be extremely pleased with the group, knowing that we're headed to the playoffs. Now it's crunch time, right? October's right around the corner. So that's a tough stretch that you just listed off.
I forgot that Cincy game at the end. It is tricky, but it's going to be exciting. But once you get that month behind you, I don't think LAFC will fall behind second. I think at the very worst, because they are consistent, and this is that black and gold standard, which we've talked about, should keep them in the top 2 with the potential to finish first. But it's going to be tricky. And keep in mind, these players are going to be off for a couple international games. So they'll be back. They'll have a short week of training ahead of the Galaxy game. And we should say the Galaxy will have some of their own international players missing as well. So all of that is in play. But you know what else is tricky, Beita?
What's
hard? Playing professionally at 40 years of age. And Kei Kamara turned 40 on last Sunday. It's amazing. We wanted to talk about it. So when did you call? What was your age when you called it a career?
First off, happy birthday to Kei Kamara. I know him. Great guy. Family man, good dude, been around the league, knows his stuff. And to play till 40, Max, do you understand how insane that is? I called it quits last year at 36, and I'm not kidding. Every time I sprinted, my hamstrings were screaming, saying, stop, stop, stop. I don't know how he's doing it. It's so impressive. It's, you hear of goalies playing till they're 40. They don't have to run and sprint. Obviously, you're still diving around, hitting the floor. It doesn't feel good. But
he's not a goalie.
Cutting and jumping and he's still trying to do bicycle kicks. I saw him last week. I'm like, what are you doing, man? He's impressive. He is. It's very impressive. Happy birthday. Hopefully he'll keep going. Let's see how long he can go for if he can break that record. But very impressive.
Yeah, I don't think he's at the end. Just because his body and that athletic ability. I watch a lot of sports. I have not seen a guy like this who has that athleticism, who can jump out of a gym, who can try bicycle kicks and still go. So if there's a bookkeeper here, I'd say 42 with a chance to go beyond. Especially he's in a happy place now. We'll see if this is a place where he can maybe see it through for another year or two with LAFC.
If he's finally content with not having to leave teams, I think he can play here till he's 42 very easily. But if he still wants to chase it a little bit, and I get it, we're all competitive, then we'll see what happens. But it's so impressive to be a field player and just sprinting around and jumping like that. And you're competing with guys half your age. Just, when I retired last year in December, this is what I'm telling people. I'm like, I couldn't hang anymore. These guys are half my age, little 18-year-olds running around, and I'm over here like a grandpa. I'm like, nah, I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
Unbelievable. It got us to thinking. So I went to the best stats and information office I know, the Stephen Beitashour Stats and Info, to find out how many 40-year-olds are in the league. He is the oldest in the league right now. Brad Guzan will turn 40 on September the 9th. So we'll get another 40-year-old here pretty soon. You gave me the numbers, and Pat Onstad, who is the GM of the Houston Dynamo, he played for 25 years. He is the oldest one, correct?
Yes, he's the oldest one. I think 43. And then the next one, field player, which is still very impressive because it's not far off, was Preki at 42. So that's impressive. And in that list of the top 5, majority of them were goalkeepers. But it's 43 years old. There's a Japanese player in the J League. He's 50. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but it is insane to think these guys are still playing. Even Tom Brady. When did he retire? At 44 years old?
I'm telling you, I am telling you, it is going to change where we're going to get a 50-year-old in this league at some point. Maybe it's Kei Kamara.
Maybe. Yeah. Let's see. Come on, Kai. You can do it.
I don't know how they do it, but it's amazing. But that Preki one surprised me. He got started in the indoor game, but still going strong. And 40 is the new 30, everyone. So enjoy it. 50s. Yeah, I don't think there's a tag for it. Good stuff, Beita. Well, hopefully the LAFC can get back to winning ways. And I felt it was a very positive show. We always have things to talk about. But hopefully we're talking about another 3 points next week and getting ready for the Galaxy game.
Exactly. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Stephen Beitashour. We shall return here on Inside LAFC podcast. Kei Kamara, the birthday boy, will join us next. Inside LAFC podcast is presented by Freeway Insurance. Driving savings. Welcome back to Inside LAFC Podcast. We are here with the birthday boy. I'm sure you've heard enough of it, but I want to wish you a happy birthday myself because it's a special birthday, Kai. Right? How you feeling? 40. You did it.
Don't know. Ante Razov has been giving me a lot of stick, so I'm not sure if I should still be celebrating the 48th.
Wait,
but
what's Ante, like 43?
Exactly. They said just because I'm still playing. No, it's beautiful. I feel great. I feel, it's weird to say, but accomplished, because this was really a goal to say I want to play until I was 40, and to feel like I'm not just playing, stumbling on the field at 40, but I'm actually playing at a high level and for one of the best clubs in the country at this age. It's amazing.
And close to lifting a trophy a couple weeks back. May lift a trophy later this month. May lift a trophy later this year. I mean, that's a charmed life. We were talking with the co Stephen Beitashour. We were going over 40-year-old players. And again, we're not trying to make you feel old, because you never should feel old because you don't project as a 40-year-old. You're just 40. But there was a short list of players who have hit that. Pat Onstad, we saw he was 43. Preki got to 42. Braguzan,
players in MLS, you mean?
In MLS, yes. Sorry, in MLS. Because we talked about the Japanese guy who's 50-something.
Yes.
How long? Hey, how long do you think you can go?
We're gonna have to call the bosses to the table here so they can tell me. But no, that's what I'm saying. To be able to, my goal was the 40, and when you're going through free agency, and I was stressing out and wanted to get myself back in the building, wanted to get myself back into playing. But when you're on the field every day at training and competing with the rest of the guys, then I'm like, I feel good. I feel really good.
That's you saying it. I'm watching it, and we're watching you jump above a torso above everyone else on corner kicks and set pieces. My guess, if you're happy playing it, and obviously it's a big family decision, I think at least 2 more seasons.
I want to win something. I'm playing to win. I've always been playing to win. I haven't, I've only won the Open Cup championship before. I haven't won the league or Supporters Shield and none of these things. So for me, that's always been the goal, trying to lift up a trophy, and to be able to be in this building and to be able to, compete this year. Obviously, I'm lucky on one of the trophies that we went for, but to be able to compete, again, at this age, I love, actually, Max, I love when my name gets mentioned and the age gets put into it, because a lot of people are surprised when they see that. And they're like, whoa, he is? But then how can it really push more other players? Because that's what it did to me back in 2007, 2008, seeing the Frankie Hayduk, Ezra Hendricks scene, and all those guys playing in their mid-30s. And I said, I want to play until I'm 40, at least, because if these guys have done it this far, and I'm going to cleanse my body, take care of my body, no disrespect to them, but take care of my body in a different way to be able to push it to that stage. So the fact that I'm here and I'm still playing for a team that's not just a normal team, but a team that's competing to be, the best team in the country. So it's really good.
We always thought, I'll speak for myself, when we were covering soccer, 34, you're like, oh, it's the end. You'll see the bodies break down. We're seeing less of that, not just with you. I mean, you have teammates who are 37 and 38, and they're playing like a much younger player. So things have changed. So, and we know there's some things at your fingertips that are helping. Maybe you are just a savant and, you just age differently than the rest of us, Kai. But you've done some things, I know it. What advice would you give to some players who want to extend it? And we've seen this in every sport. Players are playing longer, playing better. What's a short list of advice you'd give to someone if they wanted to extend, say, from 30 to 35 or 35 to 40?
Be happy.
Yes.
Be happy. Find happiness. No, really, a lot of credit to a lot of the guys, even in my locker room, as you just mentioned, looking at myself and Hugo and Max, or for example, Drew recently just joining the team, giving a lot of credit to all of them and what they've done along their career. But when I look at somebody as far away, which obviously he's done a lot, Cristiano Ronaldo, and seeing the routine that some people like that does to themselves to make sure that you're staying at the top. It's really how I've always looked at myself. For younger people, being happy is one for sure. You have to be happy, but I did it in different ways. You might not be able to do it the same way that I did. I made some sacrifices. For example, I always mention every time I talk, no drinking, no smoking, no putting any illegal things in my body. That was just the way that I went. And it's not like, okay, I tried it and it didn't work. No, I just saw people do it and I didn't see good outcomes from it. So I didn't promise myself that I was never going to touch those things. And I love competing. I love working out. I love being sore. I love going out for runs, and I know being involved in activities that get my body moving. And in the past maybe 7 or 8 years, I fell in love with yoga. I wanted to do more yoga, and taking care of your body. I'm a very flexible guy. Sometimes they tell me I'm too flexible, so I need to be able to control my body a little bit more. So, and those things really help, because for us as athletes, we look at these things, Pilates and yoga, and I don't know, very girly, you might want to say, and guys don't want to do it. Everybody wants to be tough, but no, this is the way to take care of your body, so your body will be controlled when you get into some situations, instead of injury-free preventions. That's what those things are. But find what's good for you. Eating well is what they always say, and I say just find the right woman that loves the kitchen. Then you don't have to worry about what you're eating, because she makes the right food.
It's a family affair, and too flexible is something that's never been said to me. So congratulations. And I would say the happiness. You laugh, Kai, but I like to think of myself as a very positive person, and sometimes you think
You are.
I know, you think of stressors, and then you say, okay, this is not going to bother me, or I'll say this isn't going to get into the bloodstream of me or my household, and you can keep it at the doorstep. Not everything, but some things, the small stuff. I found out that you can get, and you remind me of kind of that. Not to make it about me by any means, but I think you're the same.
Well,
kind of person.
actually, wait. No. Let's make it about you for a second. Congratulations to you for getting, honored by the city, because you're a happy guy, and your involvement in things that you do around. That's amazing. So thanks for sharing that, and congratulations to you too, sir.
I got a doozy to tell you. Apparently, that was sitting around since 2021, and it was just presented to me. So it was true story.
But that's good. That just shows the longevity of what you've been doing. It's not just now, but you've been doing it for years and years. So that's good. Yeah.
Thank you for that spin. Let's talk about the team. Obviously, disappointing result against the Dynamo. You guys had to have been physical, because Coach talked about fatigue. You guys had to have been feeling that after a very demanding week.
Yes and no. For myself, being in this game for the many years that I have been, I wanted one more. We echoed to each other in the locker room, one more, and we wanted one more. So maybe there was that little bit of thinking we were getting a few days off after that one more, that we didn't push the extra bit that we needed to push to get that one more. Because yes, that game was actually it's a game that we were supposed to play. We know we're going to play Houston again, but just the mental focus, to me, I feel like was maybe a little bit gone. But again, that's speaking about Coach. When he took me off the field, and I asked him, how do you make your subs? When do you decide someone's tired? They say, obviously it comes from mental to then, visually, where it shows in your body. So basically, he sees it. That's why he's smarter, mentally. Again, if we weren't really there mentally, then physically our body would, as you see, was not able to perform the way we wanted it to perform, to get that one more, for us to be able to go into our break with all that. But a lot of credit to things that we've done on the road. Going into Seattle was a really, really tough environment to get that result. But then coming back here and to be able, ladies and gentlemen, that's Ante Razov. Actually, I just talked about. He's walking away from me and giving me tough times again. But yeah, to be able to come back home, and we really wanted that one more. So I'm gonna say, I know Coach says, yes, we were tired, and gives us a lot of credit for the work that we've done in the past weeks. But as players, we really wanted that one more. But I think we lost just a little bit of focus mentally, which physically affected us.
You have a big month to get all that back. We've talked about it with this trip to Houston, which is going to be very challenging. The Galaxy game, the Open Cup, a game against Cincinnati. It's chock full September. With you have so many goals.
It's been big months before coming back to this month.
This game against Houston is like, it was supposed to be an off week. Obviously, weather changed that, but the success has just filled up your calendar. Is that how do you manage that? I mean, how do you manage it when it's because you handled that stretch in the Leagues Cup great, where games are coming up, and then you had the Open Cup, but that can't,
yeah.
Most teams aren't supposed to play 7-8 games a month.
That's you said the word success there, and that's one of the things I learned from the legendary Ziggy Schmid was, you're gonna get punished for success. The punishment you get is playing more and more and more. The more you win, the more games you're gonna have. The more you're gonna play in tournaments, the more you're gonna play for championship, the more you're gonna, play games. So, and being here and having this many games really does show. So don't feel bad for us. Don't feel bad to say, oh my God, they're playing so many games. But the teams that were not good enough, knocked out really early into the Leagues Cup, and they sat out, or the Open Cup. And so the more you you push yourself to be one of the best, the more games you're going to have to play, the more championships you have to go for. So going into this next month and all the games we have to play, in the beginning of the year, they always tell you, every player, we're going to cry for more playing time. We're going to cry to, want to play, but it's going to come. And this is it. It's going to come at the time where the games are hectic. Everybody's important. Doesn't matter how much you play, but there's going to come time where everybody's going to be counted on. And now is the time.
Here we are at Houston on an international break. 6 players called up, which is fantastic news for the club. Denny Buwanga's with Gabon. Matty Bogusz gets his first shot at Poland. Kike Oliveira to Uruguay. Omar Campos, I think, with the Mexico under 23s. David gets with the Venezuelan senior team. Who am I missing? Is Matty? I said Bogusz, Oliveira.
Yes, yes, we got them all. Oh, and Max.
Yes, Maxime Chanot with Luxembourg.
Yes,
who's been playing great. So, I've been at training, and you have full 11v11, a full roster. Some guys are waiting for that opportunity, so here it comes. You're a guy who's been in these situations. How do you manage a week like this, where a couple guys are probably, who have played very little or maybe not at all, are going to play important roles in a really important game?
Yeah, we actually talked about it today, to say maybe we get back to Houston and we have another downpour of the rain and the game gets moved again, so we don't have to deal with it, because this game was never
say never
scheduled. It's a schedule in this week. With a lot of credit to those guys. Again, success. That's what success brings. Success brings team success, brings individual successes, and that's what those guys have been credited for, because of the way we're performing together, and they're able to represent their various countries, which is something that's such an honor for all of us when you get called up to represent your country. But we have the amount of players that we do have. It's a good thing. I'm sure we have an 11 players that we can play this game, but doesn't matter about younger guys or guys that haven't played much. We've been training competitively together. It was really great to go into the past 2 games in Columbus and in Seattle to see how strong our roster is, everybody healthy and everybody being there. But at the same time, now we have to, hold it down for those guys that are gone with the national team, because I know I've been there, where I'm next to my computer on my phone and tracking, seeing how my team is doing, to make sure that we keep it going and make sure we don't lose, the rhythm of everything. So we're all going to be counted on to go to Houston. It's going to be a tough place. Obviously, we just played them. We just faced them. So it's not much of, study that we need to do. We just have to make sure that we're up for the game. I'm not sure how many players they're missing, but hopefully they'll be missing a couple of players too for their team.
Yeah, they will, and this international break affects a lot of teams. But this is it's an exciting opportunity. You mentioned international duty. You are retired from Sierra Leone, so they have African Cup of Nations. You obviously will be tuning in. We have Denny Bouanga trying to get Gabon into AFCON as well. I mean, there's no rest for these international dates. How do you see the challenge of qualifying for AFCON, which we have seen as being such an entertaining tournament?
Yeah, the African region really, we want to have more recognition around the world because the football in Africa is different. It's probably one of the hardest continent or region to qualify for, maybe it's World Cup or the African Cup of Nations now, as everybody's playing for. Myself, yes, I stepped away from the national team after our appearance for the first time in 26 years. We made an appearance in 2022 to the AFCON. So I called it a quit and backed off. But it doesn't sit well with the people over there when they week in and week out and they see how I'm performing over here. They're like, what do you mean? You're gone. Yeah. So, but no, just we're going to be tracking it. I'm always tracking. I'm always watching. I'm online watching. Denis comes back. I always say, hey, I watched your game. I watched your full game. He's like, what? It's like, yeah, I'm watching all the African Cup of Nations game and qualifier games.
You have the African Cup of Nations Super Channel. You paid the extra on the. Can I get your password? I'm just kidding.
Yes, what it is you just get on Facebook. There's probably somebody live streaming it somehow that's sitting in the stands and just like with their phones like shaking like this.
Oh man!
So somebody's always adding in to like a Facebook screaming page, and we're always out there watching it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The way you're playing, there's no way that the Sierra Leone's like going. You don't have to answer anything. You don't have to say anything. I'm just saying, with my own two eyes, I know how it works, Kai. So that's pretty cool.
That's what it is. Just being here. I mean, everything would have been different if I'm not going to say names of teams or wherever. If I was somewhere else, everything would have been different. But the fact that the attention that we do create here as the group and the team and the wins, it speaks for itself.
That's great to hear. I mean, LAFC makes a difference. You see it. You go. Not only is he playing well, but playing for LAFC, that connects the dot. Obviously,
it does.
I know, man. You had a very special. You had a very special event, a soccer celebration this past weekend with Sierra, paying homage to Sierra Leone, folks that are from there, people that you played with, guys that you played with in high school. There, I think it was at El Camino College, correct?
Yes.
How was that, man? That's got to be a real satisfying thing for you.
Beautiful. Labor Day weekend here in LA, and having so many guys travel from Delaware, Virginia, Columbus, Ohio, teams coming in from Arizona, all over. The Sierra Leone community is very big, obviously, in the States. And we tend to host these tournaments every summer. And then now this one, bringing it around, when they called me and said, hey, we want to honor you because we're tired of people being honored when they're done and gone. So we want to put this around you. And, goosebumps started bumping. I was like, neither do you guys actually know it's going to be my birthday weekend. So yes, thank you very much for putting this together. So we were able to host everybody here at El Camino College in my neighborhood, the areas where I grew up. So it was perfect. And we had the game. A few of them came to the game on Saturday, obviously. And we showed up there on Sunday, and they played this World Cup style tournament with all these teams. And we're there. I brought my family, my kids, my wife, and we're all there just honoring the moment and just celebrating our culture of Sierra Leone, but just the community thing. It's really about community, because when I moved here to the US also, I played for these little games that we put together to play California versus Columbus, Ohio, those kind of ways. And it was really good because I can look up to those guys. They were my older brothers. I looked up to them. And playing with some of these games now, some of the guys that represented Sierra Leone nationally or internationally have moved to the States, and their soccer careers are finished. So they were all here playing this game. So it was so nice to reunite with everybody. It was good.
That's great. It's good to know there's a big community here, support system for you, and that's people on their day off. Look how excited it was for you to go see your friends, family, and kick the ball around
Day
some
off.
more.
There are no days off.
There's no days off. That's what I was getting at. I was sitting on the beach Sunday, and I was like, well, Kai, you're a better man than I am, but we knew that anyway. Kei Kamara joining us here on Inside LAFC Podcast. Always great to be with you, especially on your birthday week. Enjoy it. Enjoy every minute.
Yeah, when do I stop celebrating my birthday?
You have a week.
Just a week?
Yes.
All right. So I got a couple more days. So
yes,
I
you have a couple more days.
Enjoy it.
Stretch it.
Thank you, Max.
Kei Kamara joining us here. Thanks for joining us as well. We'll be back again next week as we start the preview for the big game against the Galaxy. I want to thank Kai and Stephen Beitashour. We'll see you soon on Inside LAFC Podcast.